Hey guys, how's it going? I have allergies all the time, so my eyes get a little watery. But anyway, wanted to show you guys a couple things that I've learned from doing this car. This is one of the first big videos that I've done on my YouTube channel, doing the transmission, removing the transmission. I'm like 12 years older than I was, so I've learned a few things, and I don't crawl underneath stuff like I used to because I just can't do it. So I use a car lift now. So yes, I still have one of the same cars I've had for all this time. One of the things I've invested in was one of these crossbars to hold the engine up. It makes it so much easier to remove the transmission. So I'm going to suggest buying one of these if you're going to do the job. I'm going to put a link in the description on Amazon. They're not expensive to buy, 50, 60 bucks. It really does make the job much easier. I'm not talking about faster. It might be faster doing it the other way, but I found it to be much easier to remove the subframe. So now, the reason it's easier is because you can reach all the bolts much easier on this side of the engine. You can pull that axle out. It's just much easier to do because you already got these 3 bolts off on both sides, right, to get the axles out of the way. Some guys leave that side on and just leave the axle hanging, but I found it with that axle in the way, trying to get the transmission back in, it is much more difficult, especially with the subframe in. One of the things you'll find is when you put the transmission back in the car, taking it out is no problem. Putting it back in, you're going to be running, the transmission likes to get hung up on this thing going back in. So having it out of the way can make it a lot easier, especially when you have a transmission jack like I do. So I've got mine on a transmission jack, and it has a big platform. If you didn't have a transmission jack, you could probably make a big platform, maybe tack weld it on your regular jack. I found that when you're trying to put the transmission in, you have to jack. It has to go all different angles. And of course, these have, you know, these little things you can move around to get the angles you want. But you can't use a transmission jack when you have the subframe in there. So I found that just having the subframe out of the way takes about 20 minutes. Somebody suggested it a while back, and so I just decided to do it this way. So it costs you about 20 minutes to take it out this way. You could take out the whole section. You could take out you could unloosen the, what's it called? The coupler here, and then pull it out with the electric assist rack. But I'm going to suggest not to do that because it's very heavy. I think getting it back in is going to be difficult to do that. So this will be much easier to get back in. And having this out of the way, because I was doing the rear main seal, this was all covered in oil. So I went ahead and cleaned all this up so it's nice and clean to put back in, so I'm not getting all greasy and all that. That was one of the reasons I did it. Plus, I always have that fight with putting the trans back in, which I'm certain I won't have now. Now, there's another option. I've looked at a couple other videos on this stuff. And one of the guys uses the little, it's like a floor jack that comes with the car, and it's like a little, like a scissor jack. You can put that jack right inside here between here and the engine and push the whole engine forward, and then you end up missing this too. So you can do that if you don't want to take this out. But honestly, I would just say remove this, because you can reach in there, you can see everything, and while I'm doing it, one of the issues on this car is these heater hoses, and man, getting in here to do those is so much easier to do. This one happens to be a late, and I've got an early hose, and what I'm going to do is just put an adapter hose piece on here. This is a 1-inch 3/4 here, so I'm going to get a 1-inch to 3/4 adapter and coupler and put that on here versus a $70 hose. This is like an $80 at the dealer hose. This little hose, this double hose for the late BRM. This one is only, so this one here is 15 bucks. So for another $10, I can get an adapter and then never have to use that again. And this is going to be a neoprene piece on here that'll last forever. So a couple little tricks like that I'm showing you that I learned doing this. Is just a little bit easier. It's not faster necessarily, but I think it's 20 minutes of extra work pulling this out and putting it back in. And when you do that, see, I loosened up these because I was going to pull the whole thing. You don't even need to take these off. You leave these on. So there's only, and then you got to remember, when you take the cross member out, there's this one 10 millimeter at the top right here for the wiring harness. So, and then you just leave that all in place. Leave it all there, take it out. You know, you got the exhaust here, you got 6 bolts, and you got the other 6 for the ball joints here. And you have the whole thing out on the ground, out of your way. It just takes a lot of the aggravation out of the job. So just remember that. The aggravation can be worth it right there. So if you want to save yourself some aggravation, pull the cross member or the subframe out. So anyway, I think that's it. I'm just going to tell you those things. Those are things that I'll add to the video. I did the first one many years ago, and it's got, you know, 250,000, 500,000 views. And this might help you learn a couple of new tricks that I've learned. Yeah. While I'm in here, I was doing the rear mainsail. Of course, put a new flywheel on because they don't last about 160 to 200,000 miles, somewhere in there, depending on how you drive it. So anyway, that's it. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.